Hello and welcome. This is Kristen from the Online Selling Show, and I'm here with a special episode that kind of came to me when I was doing some end of the year updates on things. And one of the things that came to me was the necessity on why I feel having a CPA on board for me is an essential. An essential, I cannot say it enough. Having the right CPA is really what is going to basically, I feel, has given my husband and I not just a level of professionalism, gives us a sounding board. He's educated us. He's been there as an advocate for us. He has saved us money. He is just phenomenal. And let me go through why. And I'm going to tell you there is a distinction between a bookkeeper and a CPA. I have both. The bookkeeper is the one that's going to do all the legwork. She is the person who, she's not in my state. She is, and I've had several of them now. I have a phenomenal group that has gotten hired. We have been through many of both bookkeepers and CPAs at this point in time. When you get the right ones, I'm telling you, you will know you were going to be just this feeling of peace, of inner peace. I don't know how else to explain it. So to give you an idea of how things went, my husband and I had rental properties, and at the time that the rental properties came up, I was doing some of the eBay, but it was a very minimal amount of stuff, and it wasn't even like a couple grand a year. I wasn't really even worried about anything reporting wise, and we needed a CPA because we had our rental properties in an LLC. And the way that the laws required, I don't even know if it's still the case, but I needed to have a CPA filing my tax returns, and that was fine. We brought one on, and it's not the one I have today. I found him through an organization that is out there for business owners and the real estate, not just as landlords, but in any form of doing real estate. And we hired him, and it was a debacle. An absolute debacle. I was the one having to basically babysit the CPA. That particular one was a nightmare because it just so happened that every time the tax return came in, if it was going to be a return of $2,000, his bill was $2,000. It was amazing. The other thing was, like, I caught various just mathematical errors. He would laugh about it, have his time needed to repair or redo these taxes. I was getting charged for him to have to redo his mistakes. That one just was very not, personally, he handled another matter that I was dealing with a few other friends as a group investment. And the friend told me that he was really upset when I chose to leave. And I can tell you, I know why, because I was just free money to him. And basically I gave him every single thing, and I was catching all of his mistakes. So I could understand why it was a very costly endeavor for me to be with him, but it led me to the one I have now, because being in that group, I then found an attorney, and through the attorney, I said, you know, I am not happy. We all understood because this person was in the same group, and they really were not trying to badmouth this other CPA, but as soon as I opened up the conversation to say I was not happy with him, they, being my attorney, were like, here's the one that we deal with, and he's phenomenal. And I'm going to tell you, he is. We have been with him for well over a decade now, and I cannot say enough good things. So why am I saying that you need one? One of the things the CPA has done for us was we recently went through an audit. When you have payroll taxes, things like that. And I had to be out for a very long, extended period of time on a workers' compensation claim. And what basically flagged our account was I went from making this to zero, and they went in and wanted to audit all of the bookkeeping. It started with the wages And because my CPA was very, very well versed, has done with this before, he went in, he handled the whole thing for us. He was able to keep it very narrow scoped in what they were looking for. And at the end of it, they came back and said everything was reported correctly, and bye and have a nice day. So, and having all of the years of experience with the CPA, he did not charge us for that, because that becomes part of his representation of what he does, because he is our on-account CPA. He handled that. We did not pay anything to the state, and I don't want to jinx myself, but I just felt very comforted, very, he was just very knowledgeable. He's been through it before, and if I had to handle it for myself, I'm going to tell you right now, it would have just been horribly a nightmare that would have kept me up at night. That was one great thing. He has been there through a lot of things with me, trying to go through personal things, because my son was one that was the most impacted. His whole class was the one that his entire senior year of high school was going through the virtual because of COVID and everything, that my son was so burnt out. He took a gap year off before starting college. And I had a lot of questions as to how my personal tax return was going to get impacted by that. He answered a lot of questions through that. I'm telling you, he's still helping us with my son and that college and what you can take and what you cannot take. That's been phenomenal. The 3 rental properties that we kept, he helped us through many things with that, many things. He at one point had to give us some different paperwork through COVID to do some of the government programs and things, because of both the rental properties and the business. He was able to substantiate, the PPPs and that kind of stuff. Would not have been able to probably have produced or even able to speak on that level to the various people that we needed to. I was very, very appreciative to have him through that. We were also able to get some loans through COVID, the EIDL. He was able to make sure that those were coded correctly, that we weren't paying taxes on things we shouldn't have been paying. He was there through all of those questions. We sold the 3 rental properties, the things that you cannot even think that the government is going to want their hand out for. He was there for it. He knew how to report it. He knew how to assure that when we went to settlement, those were things that were properly reported at that time, that weren't going to make us have to go back and redo again. Things like in my state, I have to do an annual notice, had them filed for us and done so that we weren't going to have to, letting them know it was like the final one, in other words, so that we weren't having to get notices and back and forth of like, no, we're not landlords anymore. So those were very good. He is good if, I can't tell you things I've needed where it's like, I've had a point where it's like, I need my tax returns, but I needed them like for my son's FAFSA. I need them in electronic form. Pops it right in my email. Here you go. The man is ultra organized. He deals with some very high level wealthy people. So to him, he's not going to be as successful as he's been if he did not become that level of organized. The man is a phenom, man of very few words. I mean, it's hysterical that, you'll get an email with like 3 words on it, and what he can convey in those 3 words is hysterical. Like he's just cracks me up. But I just so thankful. Things like, wherever you want to fall on the political spectrum, you can, whatever you want to have. But for me, being in a corporation, when there was the signing that Donald Trump did in some of the tax laws and tax breaks, I had to flip from like one corporation C to a corporation S, that type of thing. Where I have to know or understand what I'm reporting when I go on for my healthcare to the government website. He's been able to very effectively explain to me why I want to be reporting my expected wages as correctly as I can, and not trying to basically fudge it to try and get a cheaper healthcare rate, because it's just going to turn back around when I have to file at the end of the year. And I've always been one of those people, I would rather just do it the correct way up front, save myself the time and tears and effort later, and just know that things were just handled with some peace of mind. And that's what this man has been able to do. If I'm going to tell you, if you do not have a bookkeeper that you can, they are also phenomenal. I can send to her and ask her a question, and it will be dressed. If it's not today, it will be tomorrow. They give me things like different profit and loss statements. If I needed it today, she would email them to me. When we had that audit going, I called her and I told her right away. She gave to the CPA anything that she needed, because he doesn't handle the payroll, she does. Those two worked it out between themselves. So I've been at places where, you know, oh my God, they need, when I went to get like this car, they need 2 pay stubs. Well, I'm going to be honest, it's the same pay for us every week. I don't even look at my pay stubs. It was kind of like, you know what, can you just send them to me? Because she's in there every pay period. I'm in there once a year, twice a year maybe. She just does it. She doesn't have any qualms. She doesn't have any problems. I've had some bookkeepers where, honestly, the books weren't even done until like April 14th. And things are like, you need your books as you're going along, or you're not getting feedback. I know for me personally, I've been doing this long enough that I kind of know where my bills are. I know percentages, if we're doing good or we're not doing good. I don't have to babysit the financials every day, but you need to see them regularly. The other bookkeeper, the first one I had, never. I got charged a monthly basis, and she never did the books until you basically cried on her shoulder to finally get the stuff, and then she would tell you some excuse like her electric was out. Electric hasn't been out for not just a year. I mean, I wouldn't have the books from January. It's now, let's say January 15 was the, you know, we're doing, let's say 2015's taxes. She would have, we'd be in February of 16, and she still hadn't done the books from January of 15. It would be like over a year later. She still hadn't gotten the books done. By that point, there are so many things that you don't remember, like what you spent money on, and was it a business expense or was it personal? I mean, my bookkeeper now, every week is sending me what she calls as her ask account. I can tell her right away, like, yeah, that was postage I bought, or those were, you know, shipping bags, or whatever it may be, because it's still fresh in my mind. The other thing is, the second one I got, she was just as bad, but more regular with it. She was always chronically not getting the books in. She was chronically just disheveled. Like, if I needed stuff like payroll, she didn't really know where or what I was doing. I was basically babysitting and doing my own payroll, because she just didn't know. You know, she knew what she knew, but she was a CPA, but she wasn't up on the book, so she couldn't answer any questions I had if I needed questions. She was another one that I wound up finding out. I did a thing about you know, things to think about or know about when you are considering a mentor, and she was one that I wound up finding out later that, like, she was in a bankruptcy between herself personally and her business. Was it my business to know that? No. But was it a problem for me? Yes. Because I relied on her for some of the questions that I needed answered in my business. And now I question how much I should have given her in my headspace of answering some really heavy questions that had come through at that point in time, because I was having a breakdown with some other vendors that weren't working out and needed to be fired. And I was using her as a sounding board, because I was looking and relying on the figures she was giving me to make decisions. And I even today don't know that her figuring and the way she resolved the questions for me was correct. I found out later that the way She set the books up. There's cash and accrual. I'm completely in the wrong one. I was not set up correctly. I do get vendors and I don't pay them for 30 days, 60 days, months sometimes because of the holiday stuff. And that was not the way the books should have been set up. And it took a period of time for the new bookkeepers to get the books switched around. And I was never really pressured to get a on-hand inventory value. It was just kind of poo-pooed, like, sure, just take your time. Whenever you get to it, you get to it. And the logistics of what it took to finally get that in the current regime that I have, I'm telling you, I'm happy. Because now I know exactly in dollars and cents, I know exactly what is, God forbid, if there was some tragedy, there was a fire or a theft or a hurricane that comes through or something, I can justifiably tell the insurance company the value of what was in that building and why, because I can break it down to every little nuance of what piece of inventory I own. And that's why I'm making it a point that my son will be doing physical inventory in this month of January to assure that we are on point. If there is stuff that needs to get written off for tax purposes, this will be happening now. So all of this, I hope, gives you some insight that it's not just what you're paying them in a value. It is the experience that they bring. It is the guidance and leadership of what they bring. This, the amount of wealth of information brought to the table from this CPA is just amazing. He is part of a larger organization, meaning he's basically franchised out. My husband and I are making decisions of retiring to a complete distance away, multiple states away. We are indecisive between two different states currently because we want to move to a certain body of water. And on one side is one state and on the other side is another. And his best friend happens to be living in the state that is to the south. And he's already lining us up with this guy that's his friend, because we need to make decisions on what financially is going to be the best state for us to be moving to. And it's part of the consideration, I guess I should say. And he's got the resources to bring to the table. One of the other things that he got me, he didn't necessarily have the information for, he was a good sounding board, was the South Dakota versus Wayfair. Made a huge effect into the online selling world based on the collection of sales tax. My husband and I, because of dealing with Amazon and FBA, I'm not going to go into in depth with that, but we were impacted and had a huge tax bill that came out of it. And through his being an ear for us, he was able to help us make some decisions. I did have to hire another group that was very well versed in dealing with Nexus and sales tax issues on a national level. And he was there at least to give me a sounding board to make a decision on hiring these people and the best way to manage that, also in collaboration with our books, because he needed to make sure he was coding things correctly for making sure that we got the tax write-offs and benefits or whatever that may be. So I hope this gives you some areas to think about. I don't want to say that you have to do something. Anybody that's going to be out there trying to help and mentor you, that's saying, oh, you have to, you should to, that's not somebody I feel I want to be in my world of dealing with things for business. So I'm hoping you're not taking that as me saying that for you as well. I'm just saying is that the money is a consideration when you're looking to hire, but there is a lot of other benefits that come along with it that maybe most people aren't willing to go into a discussion for. I like to open up the topic, give you many topics in there of what are the considerations, and let you make your own decision. And I'm not saying any of these are going to happen to you. Maybe all of these are happening to you. I say that hopefully this gives you the questions or the insight to start saying and having conversations with those around you. One of the things I can definitely tell you is watch who you're talking to, though, because if somebody is out there and you know they like to cut corners, you see where they've been in life, you know that they're constantly behind the 8 ball, that they're never getting ahead in life, that, you know, maybe they're owing taxes and stuff like that, they're not going to be the person that maybe you should be talking to, because they've already proven to you where their path was. If they're not already making adjustments to change their own circumstances, they're going to lead you right to where they went to. Just giving you some insight on that. Hope you got some good information. I would really appreciate some thumbs up if you did. Please leave some comments down below. Is there more to this topic that you need to hear about? Is there something else that you want me to know about? Or maybe you have questions. By all means, please leave them down below. I would really appreciate if you would hit the subscribe button. It's free. Not going to cost you any money. But it would put my next videos in your feed. So I'm going to say bye for now, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.